Don't try, just do.
Hello everyone, today's topic is resilience. That's what we're going to talk about today. And I have a few topics, but this thing can be a sensitive thing to talk about if you're going through it. Or even if you're watching the video and you're going through something, sometimes life throws certain things at you and you don't know how to deal with it in the moment, but all you can do is just not give up, not quit. So the first thing to remember is it could always be worse. I say this so you don't fall into the trap of having self-pity. Because if you do that, you end up self-loathing. And if you self-loathe, that isn't productive, that isn't helpful, that isn't going to get you out of the situation. So always remember there's someone, as bad as your situation might look or might feel or might be, there's always someone who's in such a situation, so much more precarious than yours is, that they actually wish that they could be in your position. So you must always remember that whenever you're going through something. And I'm not going to specify because we all go through our different struggles, and depending on your quality of life, your social class, your age, your relationship status, especially your relationship with God, your current levels of stress, depending on how far you are on trying to achieve a certain goal, we can all be going through various different personal challenges. So I'm not gonna talk more to what is severe enough to be qualified as a opportunity or a necessity to be resilient. Rather, I'm gonna talk about more resilience. So it could always be worse. You should always keep that in mind, and you should always stay away from self-pity. You should always remember that there is good in your situation. Your situation may be ugly, terrible, but I'm sure if you really put your mind to it, open the book and write down the good things, I'm sure you could come up with a decent list. Things that could be considered a silver lining. So that's one thing you should always remember. The next point is not to waste your time and energy crying. Now I don't mean literally crying tears and making noise, but again, just to elaborate more on the point of self-pity. When you have self-pity and you self-loathe, you waste a lot of time and energy moping around and sulking. That's a lot of time where you're not finding a solution, looking to God to find a solution, making a supplication to God to show you a solution, or changing what you need to do. Sometimes God put everything in front of you and you just have to get to work and you just have to do what you need to do. And the more you self-loathe, the more you mope around, the more energy you waste in crying and complaining. It was this person's fault, it was that person's fault, this person did me wrong. Okay, but I couldn't do it because of this circumstance, and this circumstance didn't allow me to do it, and the environment wasn't right, and I couldn't do it because of this, and this wasn't ready, and I didn't have this like that person. All this complaining, pointing, making excuses, you will spend so much energy elaborating justifications for why you couldn't accomplish something, that you will miss the opportunity to actually fix the whole situation or to change the situation for yourself. God can give you an opportunity for redemption in fixing the situation, or an opportunity to change the situation completely and make it better for you, but you can miss it altogether because you were too busy moping around and crying. So you missed the opportunity. You wasted a lot of time. So now, you know, by the grace of God, you can still get to a place where everything is okay and everything is fixed, but it will take that much longer because you took that much longer to start, and you will have that much less energy because you use so much energy saying, oh, I couldn't do it, I can't do it, it's because of him. I didn't get to accomplish what I need to do because of her, because of this, because of that. If only I had this, if only this person did me right, if only that person did me right. So don't waste any time or energy crying. And the next one is focus. The next two topics I'm gonna talk about before the very last one. The last one is it's gonna use a lot of biblical context. I'm gonna use a lot of verses, but the next two ones are First, control what you can control, set it up to be optimal. And then the next one is use that opportunity. No, no. The next one is what you cannot control, make a supplication to God. So first, control what you can control, set it up, make it optimal. At the end of the day, success is when opportunity meets preparation. I used to think, you'll hear some religious people say everyone's success, everyone got their success from God. That doesn't mean God approves of what they're doing or their moral behavior or their beliefs in life. It just means that no one succeeds in anything or nothing happens without the permission of God because, you know, God is in complete control. He is all powerful if you read the Bible. That's how you'll understand things to be. So I used to think that the preparation is what I need to do, and the opportunity is what God will do. So if I prepare, even if I don't see that opportunity ever coming into reality, I need to prepare, and then pray to God that that opportunity will come. So when that opportunity comes, I'm well prepared for it, and I can do what I need to do correctly, then I can have success. Preparation plus opportunity equals success. But something God showed me 1 or 2 years ago, even the very strength, even the very capacity to breathe is because of the mercy of God. Which means even preparing itself, I need the strength of God. What does this mean? It means one, you can do nothing without God. So you have to pray and hope and have faith in God for everything and surrender everything to the Lord. But it doesn't mean that you become lazy. You pray, you read your Bible, you say, oh, God will do it for me, and then you sit and do nothing. No, you still have to prepare. You still have to give it everything you have. So when I say control what you can control and set everything up to be optimal, asking the Lord for strength in humility, understanding you can do nothing with Him, give it everything you got to control what you can actually control when it comes to preparing. When it comes to reaching that goal you need to achieve or you want to achieve, even if you don't see the opportunity. Ask yourself, if I get this opportunity, what do I need to do? I need to do this. To be able to do this, what do I need to be capable of? Okay, am I capable of this? 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 Yes, no, maybe. Fix all of that. Everything you can control, set it up to be optimal. Always be prepared, always stay prepared, always be preparing. You saw in the last video how much I was talking about work and how much God hates laziness. So control what you can control and set it up to be optimal. But the next thing is which you cannot control, which is a lot, which is the opportunity, which is the environment, which is whether or not that thing related, I don't know, let's say to a body, let's say using sports metaphors, you cannot control who your teammates will be. You cannot control who your teammates will be, who decides to be with the team and leave, whether or not that will be a useful teammate to rely on or not. You cannot control, let's say, I don't know, let's say a race or driving on a track. You cannot control the weather, and some weather conditions are not favorable. If you're in South Africa, let's say you're giving a big speech, like a TED Talk esque speech to give. You cannot control whether load shedding or not will happen whilst you're giving this speech. You cannot control whether or not the people will have a generator or whether they have enough fuel for the generator. There is always unforeseen. There can always be unforeseen events that mess everything up, and that's where you really need to have resilience. Because when you do everything right and you prepare, and either the opportunity doesn't come or it doesn't come soon enough, or even when it comes, it's not optimal, or it's not the easiest, or it's not in your favor, you have to pray, humble yourself, and make a supplication to the Lord. The word supplication, it's really pleading and begging and making a case. You should have a peace beyond understanding, knowing that all things work together for good for those who love God and are called to His purpose. So if it was for you, be prepared so that when God puts it before you, you're capable of grabbing that opportunity before you. When He gives you that resource, you're well capable of stewarding it appropriately. with your time, talent, and treasure that you've been working on, which was the previous point. So just make a supplication to the Lord. What He has in store for you, He'll give you. What He doesn't, you have to be resilient. You have to take the opportunity to build character. Use the opportunity to build character, which is the next point. And you have to make peace with the fact that that isn't yours and God has something else for you. And whatever He chose in His wisdom. So, focusing on the next point, using the opportunity to build character, I'm going to read some Bible verses. I have my Bible in front of me. I need to memorize more Bible verses. But the first verse is James 1, verse 3 to 5, which says, James 1, verse 3 to 5, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience, but let the patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. No, sorry. This is some really small text. Knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience, but let the patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all liberally without reproach, and it will be given to him. I love that last verse in verse 5 because it's a picture of how loving the Lord is. I don't know, being African, I don't know how many times you have asked a question. I know how many, it's happened to me a lot of times, but I don't know for you guys how many times you've asked a question with genuine curiosity and good intentions, wanting to know more because you're seeking more wisdom. You don't want to take something and believe it blindly, but you want to understand it so that you may believe in it. And if you believe in it, you can do it even when it isn't to your benefit, even when it doesn't directly please you or benefit you, even when people are encouraging you to do the opposite, and so that you may defend that action, and so that you may teach the people who come after you to do it. But I don't know if it's a colonization, if it's something our African parents and their parents and their parents and their parents inherited from colonization, but this thing of do because I said so. I mean, the Bible says, honor your mother and father and respect them, but obey your parents. You must obey the Lord and your parents. But the problem with this, do because I said so. Now I'm doing something I don't understand, I don't believe in, or I may disagree in, which means what? When they're gone, this isn't even talking about obedience, but after their time, or by the time it's my the one after me comes, let's say my kid, I don't believe in that thing, so I'm not gonna tell them to do it. So it's not gonna be done. So even if it was right and true and good and righteous, I would have never known because it was never explained to me. But listen to what it says here in verse 5. It says, when you ask the Lord for wisdom, he gives liberally without reproach. So you won't be punished and deemed disrespectful for wanting to ask a question or for wanting to understand something you don't currently understand. And I'm going off topic, but look how the testing of your faith produces patience. Patience is required with resilience because you never know how long you may suffer, be in that precarious situation. And at the same time, it says, let the patience have its perfect work that you may be complete. So when you take this opportunity to build character, you must allow these things to mold who you are as a person. You must allow the challenges God throws at you to mold who you are as a person so that you may be a better person, a more complete person, a more capable person. The next verse is James 5, James chapter 5, verse 10 and 11. And that reads, my brethren, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord as an example of suffering and patience. Indeed, we count them blessed who endure. You have heard of the perseverance of Job and seen the end intended by the Lord, that the Lord is very compassionate and merciful. Now, when you're going through a precarious situation, you don't understand why nothing is working in your favor and everything is seemingly against you. You may have this pressure and weight against you. You may feel like nobody wants what's good for you. You may feel like God is punishing you, and He's just a mean, judgmental God who's there to punish and condemn you. But I don't know if you guys, I don't know whether you're Christian or not if you're watching the video, but Job, that's another book in the Bible you must read. To make a long story short, he's a good, righteous man. He has everything, everything is going perfect. A certain person named Satan says to the Lord, "Oh, this person's only good because you give him everything." So God tests him, taking everything from him, everything of value, all his material belongings and all the people he loves, to test this person's faith, love, and devotion towards God. Now you can see he's human, he cracks. There's a point where he's upset with God and even tries to blame God, but he stays true to God, he stays faithful, and in the end, God reinstalls everything, gives him what he had and more. Not as a reward for having faith towards God, because he was supposed to have that anyways, but he gives it gracefully. And listen to what it says at the end. It says that the Lord is very compassionate and merciful. So the Lord can actually give you compassion and mercy where people are giving you reproach, anger, and pointing fingers at you. Sometimes for factors that were completely out of your control, people can blame you. And yet the Lord is compassionate and merciful. So as hard as it is to believe, become those blessed who endure. So have patience when resilience comes with patience, because you don't know how long these things take, and you must endure the suffering. The next verse is First Peter chapter 4, verse 13 and 16. Not 13 to 16, but 13 and 16. I'm going to read them separately. So, verse 13, it says, "But rejoice to the extent that you partake of Christ's suffering. When his glory is revealed, you may also be glad with exceeding joy." Now, this is saying, because as Christians, you're supposed to be like Christ and you're supposed to walk with Christ. And disclaimer, the context of this is not that the suffering in your own ambitions concerning the world. And this isn't what that's talking about. This is talking about your Christian walk, but it seems very applicable nonetheless. Is that you won't suffer as much as Christ, but if you can partake in the suffering with him in the end when he comes back, or when you go to be with him after death, that you may also partake in the glory when his glory is revealed. So that's beautiful and poetic to me. Verse 16 says, be from verse 16. "Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in this manner." Now, when you stand for your beliefs, people will be all cool and like, "Oh man, that's great, that's your beliefs, awesome, everything." But the reality is, there's many things that Christians understand as truth that the world will deem controversial or intolerant or bigoted or all these things. And the reality is, you will suffer and be persecuted in various ways and forms when you're a Christian. Now, if you're a Christian somewhere deep in, I forgot which country it was, Syria, you may be martyred, like Stephen in the book of Acts. Now that's brutal, but again, if you suffer as a Christian, you'll be bearing good fruit in the end when His glory is revealed. Or you might just be in another place like America, and again, you have to put things into perspective. Oh, they were being mean at you and they called you bigoted because you have certain beliefs about God that are deemed bigoted and that you're intolerant. Who cares? Big deal. They're upset about what you said, so they said mean words back to you. Maybe they demonetized your YouTube channel for those of you who have bigger YouTube channels, so they canceled you. Yeah, that can be tough, but in the end, you have to understand that the reality is it could be so much worse. Put things into perspective, but yeah, I'm all out for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it brought value. If it did, excuse me, if it did bring value, please share the video. Please remember to subscribe and like the video. See you next video.